Hi guys, welcome back to Modern Sourcing and Procurement. In the last video, we covered SAP Ariba sourcing, what it is, sourcing requests, sourcing projects, quick versus full projects. If you haven't watched that yet, I would highly recommend going through it because today's video builds directly on top of that. So, in the last video, I mentioned that inside a sourcing project, you run something called sourcing events. And today, that's exactly what we are going to deep dive into. So, what is a sourcing event? Simply put, it is an individual activity within a sourcing project where a buyer interacts with supplier to collect information, proposals or bids. Think of it like if the sourcing project is the entire exam, then each sourcing event is one paper of that exam. These events are the core of the whole sourcing process. This is where the actual back and forth with suppliers happens. When you compare offers and make your procurement decisions. Let's get into it. Before we jump into the types, let's first understand why sourcing events even exist. Why can't you just call up suppliers and ask for the quotes? Well, sourcing events serve four core purposes. First, gather information. You want to know who is out there, what they can do, and what they can charge. Second, evaluate the proposals. Once suppliers respond, you compare them side by side on the same parameters. Third, negotiate terms. Competitive events create pressure, which naturally leads to better pricing and terms. And fourth, select and contract. You pick the best supplier and move towards the contract. Think about a company like Reliance Retail sourcing packaging material for their private label products. They don't just call one vendor and say, "Give me your best price." They run formal sourcing events. First, understanding the market, then collecting detailed proposals, and finally, doing a live bidding event to get the sharpest price. That entire structured process is what sourcing events enable. Without this structure, you would be back to emails, Excel sheets, and messages, which is exactly the problem SAP Ariba is designed to solve. Now, let's talk about the three main types of sourcing events: RFI, RFP, and auctions. First is RFI, request for information. This is your fact finding mission. You are not asking for prices yet. You are simply asking suppliers, who are you? What can you do? And you even qualified to bid for this. It helps you narrow down your supplier list and qualify candidates before the real process begins. Think of it like a screening round. Second is the RFP, request for proposal. Now you are asking for both capabilities and pricing together. This is ideal for complex or non-standard purchases like IT services, consulting, or customized products, where suppliers need to explain their approach, not just quote a number. Suppliers can differentiate themselves here. Third is the auction, a real-time competitive bidding event where suppliers submit bids online and compete against each other. This is where the magic happens from a saving perspective. When a large hospital chain needs to source medical equipment, they would typically start with a RFI to shortlist capable vendors, then run an RFP to understand technical specifications and pricing, and finally a live auction for the final commercial round. This three-step approach is very common in strategic procurement. Okay, so once supplier have submitted their responses, you need a fair way to evaluate them. And that's where grading and scoring comes in. The whole purpose is simple. Objectively evaluate and compare supplier responses. No gut feel, no favorism, no, I would worked with this vendor for years, so let's go with them. No. Here is how it works. You assign scores to different sections of the event based on their importance. Then evaluators grade each supplier against those sections, and the system calculates an overall score automatically. The benefits are huge. You can analyze a large number of responses very quickly, reduce human bias, and rank your decision factors numerically. So at the end, it is very clear why supplier A ranked above supplier B. Think about a government tender, say BSNL selecting a technology partner. They legally cannot just pick whoever they like. They must use a weighted scoring system, technical score, financial score, compliance score, to justify the selection. Grading and scoring in Ariba brings that same discipline to private companies as well. Now, this slide is really important. These are the three scoring controls that shape how your evaluation actually works. First is weight. This represents how much a particular section contributes to the overall score. If delivery reliability matters more than packaging quality, you give it a higher weight. The system then automatically makes it count more in the final score. Second is importance. This is assigned at an individual question or line item level, scored from 0 to 10. A 10 means it's critical, a 0 means it's informational. It doesn't affect the score at all. Think of it like a university exam where some questions carry 2 marks and some carry 20. Third is target grade. This sets the minimum acceptable score for each item. If a supplier scores below the target on a critical criterion, the system flags it in red so evaluator doesn't miss it. A pharma company sourcing raw materials might assign 40% weight to regulatory compliance, 30% to quality certifications, and 30% to pricing. And they would set a target grade of 8 out of 10 on compliance, because anything below that is a deal breaker, regardless of how attractive the price is. Now, there are two types of grading setups. First is the team grading. In the large sourcing events, you might have hundreds of supplier responses to evaluate. One person can't do all of that alone, and honestly, one person shouldn't, because different stakeholders bring different expertise. That's why Ariba supports team grading. Multiple evaluators working together on the same events. There are three approaches. Grade by content means you take one question at a time and grade all suppliers' answers to it in one go. This is great for consistency. You are comparing everyone on the exact same question side by side. Grade by participants means you take one supplier and evaluate all their responses together. This gives you a complete picture of that one vendor. And grade offline via Excel. You download everything, grade it in a spreadsheet, and upload the results back to Ariba. This is very useful when evaluators are traveling or prefer working in Excel. An infrastructure company evaluating bids for a construction project might have the technical team grading engineering capability, the finance team grading commercial terms, and the legal team reviewing the compliance, all working simultaneously using different grading approaches. Ariba support all of this in one single event. Now the second grading setup is pre-grading. It is really a smart feature and one that saves a lot of time. For objective questions where the answer is either right or wrong, the system can automatically grade supplier responses the moment they come in. No human needs to review these. This saves evaluator hours of work and also removes any unconscious bias, especially the tendency to favor suppliers you have worked with before. Pre-grading works for four type of questions: yes, no, multiple choice, list of choices, and number or date fields. It doesn't apply to open-ended text responses. Those still need human judgment. Imagine a retail chain sourcing store furniture. They ask all suppliers, can you deliver within 14 days? Yes or no? And what is your price per unit? These have clear objective answers. Pre-grading automatically scores all of these responses the moment they come in. So the evaluation team can focus their energy on comparing design quality, warranty terms, and after sales support, the things that actually need human thinking. Now there are two type of auctions. We will talk about both. First is the reverse auction and second is the forward auction. In a normal auction, buyers compete and prices goes up. In reverse auction, it's the opposite. Supplier compete and prices comes down. The buyer sits back and watches the market drive the price lower in the real time. There are three types of reverse auction. English reverse auction, which is the most common. Supplier bid freely, prices drop continuously, lowest bid wins. This is what most people picture when they hear reverse auction. Japanese reverse auction. It is the more structured. The buyer lowers the price at fixed intervals and the suppliers decide whether to stay in or drop out. The last supplier is still standing wins. This tests commitment at every price level. Third is the Dutch reverse auction. It starts from a very low price and the buyer raises it gradually. The first supplier to accept wins. A large retail chain running English reverse auction for commodities like packaging material or cleaning supplies has reported savings of 15 to 20% on category spend simply by introducing competitive bidding pressure where none existed before. That's a massive impact with relatively low effort. Now, forward auctions. These are the mirror image of reverse auction. Here, prices go up instead of down, and the use case is completely different. This is when the buyer has something to sell, not buy. Think surplus machinery, unused raw material inventory. These used forward auction. First is the English forward auction. Suppliers bid upward freely, highest bid wins. Classic auction format like what you would see on an online auction site. Second is the Japanese forward auction. The seller raises the price at fixed interval. Last remaining bidder wins. Third is the Dutch forward auction. The seller starts at a very high price and lowers it until someone accepts. First taker wins here. A manufacturing company that has old, decommissioned machinery sitting in their warehouse can run a forward auction on Ariba to sell those assets to scrap dealers or second-hand equipment buyers. Instead of selling to the first person who calls, they create competitive pressure that maximizes their recovery value. Airlines use similar logic to sell unsold cargo space to the highest bidder. And that's a wrap on sourcing events. We covered what a sourcing event is, the three main types of events RFI, RFP, and auctions, and all about gradings, and the reverse auction and forward auction with the real world example. The key takeaway here is that sourcing events are not just a feature of SAP Ariba, they are a disciplined way of engaging with the market. Whether you are buying raw materials, services, or technology, running structured events gives you transparency, competition, and data to back every decision you make. That also wraps up the SAP sourcing module. Next, we are going into contract management. If you found this helpful, please hit like, share it with your friends in procurement or supply chain, and subscribe so you don't miss the next video. See you in the next one. Thank you.